Alright, ladies and gentlemen, let's do a quick review of 5.1, 5.2, and this is going to lead into everything we need to know about trig functions, which is 5.3 to the rest of the book, which is 7.5, which is a lot of information. Okay, so let's really review 5.1 and 5.2. For 5, that's unnecessary. For 5, I feel like my handwriting is terrible. For 5.1 to 5.2, okay, this is all talked about the unit circle. Now what's the unit circle? The unit circle is exactly what you think it is. It's a circle centered at the origin. That's 0, 0. The equation of this guy is x squared plus y squared equals 1. So what does this mean? If somebody lives here, that it has to satisfy this equation. Okay. Now we already talked about the big points on here in class, and I don't feel the need to go over this again. If you need to, no, by all means come see me. But we got these points right here which are huge. Okay. So not only must you know the point, which is 0, which is 1 on the x, 0 on the y, 0 on the x, 1 on the y, 1 that's negative and 0, and then last but not least this guy, which is 0 minus 1. You got to know the actual the radian. So this is 0, this is the starting point. This is going to be pi over 2. This is pi, or 2 pi over 2. This is 3 pi over 2, and this is 4 pi over 2, which is better known as 2 pi. So if you notice, going one full revolution, which is one full 2 pi, is exactly the same as going nowhere at all. Okay, and we really have to use this to our advantage. So we got some good stuff. We know this equation, and we know these big points and the other 3, 6, 9, 12 points we have that fill in the gaps. But I'm just going to focus on this to actually really help you with the homework that everyone seems to be having issues with, just as far as learning the unit circle. So first things first, you need to know that the sine, if we ever had to figure out the sine of something, call it t, that's just the y coordinate. The cosine of that t, and t is the terminal point on the outside. Okay, well, excuse me, t is the radian, which is actually the same thing as the terminal point, is the x of the terminal point, and this is actually the same thing as saying, if I said tangent here of t, this is the same thing as saying y over x. So this is all the stuff we talked about in class. Okay, so we can find all the specific values using this major equation here and the rest of this. Okay, so how do we put it all together? Well, let's go to WebAssign and pull a problem real quick. Oops, wrong one. All right, let's see, that's not it. Let's go to WebAssign. All right, WebAssign says this value. So let's look at sine of 17 pi over 6. Now first things first, 17 pi over 6 is a lot, okay, meaning that it is not just one full revolution, because if we looked at a denominator of 6, 2 pi would be the same thing as 12 pi over 6. Agreed? Because 6 divided by 12 is definitely 2. This is definitely 17 pi over 6. So remember, going 0 is the same as going 2 pi. So bottom line is, for every full revolution, we don't care. We don't care about it. We want to bring it back just to the terminal side. So what does this mean? Well, consider this. Sine of 17 pi over 6. Well, check this out. I'm going to do this in quotation marks because this is tacky mathematics to actually write it like this. So I actually change color so you can jump out and see it. Sine 6 divided by 17 is 2 and 5, 6 left over, I believe. 12, yep, 2 and 5, 6. In quotation marks, because you would never write it like this, pi. Okay, so what this means is, this is the same thing as saying sine of 2 pi plus 5 pi over 6. Now, check this out. We just said 2 pi is the same as going nowhere, which is 0. So all I really need to figure out is what is sine of 5 pi over 6. Well, so what does that mean? Well, let's go back, and I am going to clean the slate and we can take a look at it. Sine of 5 pi over 6. So let's look at our unit circle. We got to locate 5 pi over 6. So where is 5 pi over 6? Well, this is my circle. I'm going to keep running. I'm going to keep running. I'm going to keep running. That's about 2 pi. If I get all the way to the other side, this would be pi. Well, this is 5 pi over 6. So this is right before 6 pi over 6 would be pi. That's the same thing as pi, right? We want 5 pi over 6. So this is where we're at. We're right here, 5 pi over 6. The reference angle was 30 degrees, so I know this point has to be root 3 over 2 and 1/2. Okay, but don't forget that the x is negative. Okay, so now with me knowing this, what's the sine? Well, the sine is 1/2. Done and done. Easy. So, moral of the story. Therefore, sine of 17 pi over 6 was the same as saying sine of 5 pi over 6, which is 1/2, which is just the y. Easy peasy. Okay, now we can actually go backwards too if you wanted to. Okay, and notice how I went for that 2 pi, because no, 2 pi is the same as going nowhere if we talk about full revolutions. Okay, so if many 2 pi's it has, take it all out and it'll take us back to the first terminal side to figure out just that run around the circle for the very first time, the leftover piece more or less. Okay, now let's take a quick look at this. What if they said that you have the point, and this is actually another assignment that has come from WebAssign. I think it was from this one. No, not on this assignment. It was from this assignment, 5.2b. It says view, and this is actually a really cool assignment right here. So if you notice, they give you this thing, okay, and they give you all this cool stuff, and they say look for the points. Okay, so if you check this one out, where are we at here? This is a good one, number 8. Okay, it says sine of t is -3/5, and it's telling you you're in the 4th quadrant. Find everything else. Okay, well, here we go. Sine of t is -3 over 5. Remember, x squared plus y squared has to equal 1. They just said that the sine, which is the y, is -3/5. So -3/5 is like right here, and this is the unit circle. Oops, that's a bad unit circle, isn't it? Here's a unit circle. This is 1. So -3/5 is like right here. So they tell you the y is -3/5. Well, how do you find the other point? You know x squared plus y squared is 1. So that means that x squared plus -3 over 5 squared equals 1. So that means that x squared plus 9 over 25 equals 1. Let's solve for x squared, ladies and gentlemen. X squared equals 1 minus 9 over 25, which is 16 over 25. Don't forget that when you take a square root, that it is plus and minus, and you should get a plus and minus. Why? Because there are 2 places, so it's plus and minus 4 over 5. So you get 2 places that satisfies this, okay, where it's -3/5. -3/5 is here and here, okay? But if you remember the details, it says it has to be in the 4th quadrant. So to be in the 4th quadrant, that's right here, which means the x is positive, so 4 over 5. Bingo. And we can figure out the rest of our trig functions. Alrighty, guys.